You can start the meeting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Executive Cabinet Member for Highways meeting. Um, First item on the agenda is monitoring of Executive Cabinet Members' decision.
Yeah, I think
Any?
it's pretty much up to date that we've managed to get it quite up to date. So, Councillor Wilkinson's got a question.
Yes,
Yeah,
Councillor
just one
Wilkinson.
question if I could on this. I know Roger's, I'm filling in for Roger today, but there are one or two which a bit of a concern, pet subject of mine. In relation to the new civil parking enforcement contractor, is this actually in place? Because I have to say, I am concerned. I have been concerned for some time, and I've emailed about various things in my neck of the woods about actual enforcement. And I know there's a big beef about, for motorists, I'm getting a ticket, blah, blah, blah. I only usually get involved about enforcement when we're talking about road safety, particularly around schools or other locations. Where are we with enforcement? Is it in post? And the other thing I'd like to know is how many enforcement officers do we actually have? And if it's all right, I'll work my way through them. Sorry to do this, but there's one or two interesting items in this report, if I may. The other one is in regard to pavement sweepers. Has that made progress? Have we got them in place? Because I have to say, walking around my neck of the woods, and I'm sure other members have the same, I haven't seen a pavement sweeper or even a road sweeper in some considerable time, and our footpaths and our gutters in the road are full of muck, in some cases inches deep. So I'd like to know where we are and have we got on top of that, because are we getting this equipment in place? And I think that's it on those two questions, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Are you happy for me to come back on those points? Yes.
Yes, Dwayne.
Thank you. So just on the enforcement contractor, councillor, so that was the request that came through ECM was just to go out to procurement. So we went out like last year. We've actually gone in with I think there's I think in total, I think there's 4 GM councils now all combined together. So there's been huge efficiencies within that procurement process. We've all got the same provider, and the contract was let to NSL and started on 1st of April. So which was, and NSL was our present provider as well. But there has been some efficiencies in tendering that with some of the other GM authorities, because all the contracts were coming together at the same time. Numbers of CEOs, I'm not sure, to be honest, but I'll send you an email. They do different shifts and different rotas, but we enforce from 8 a.m. through to 11 p.m. So, but I'll give you the numbers of the shift patterns will be different during the day, but I'll give you the indication of how many CEOs we've got at any one time. We've obviously got lots in the town centre, and then we have 2 or 3 mobile units. You mentioned school keep clears. We have a van or a car with a camera that goes around our school keep clears, and the CEOs also visit school keep clears. So we have a programme to go around all of our primary school to enforce on school keep clears. And just on sweeping, there is a sweeping programme, and I'll contact colleagues in neighbourhood services just to send you through that programme. I think they might be on a 3 monthly clean, but I'll confirm that, and I'll ask someone to send you through the frequencies. Thank you.
Could I just come back on the enforcement, if you don't mind, Exec Member?
Yes, Councillor Wilkinson.
The assistant director's given, to a certain extent, an indication of the problem. You only need to read the August Journal of the Bolton News and the number of complaints in relation to enforcement in Bolton Town Centre. I'm West Orton 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and Bolton comes a bit further down the list. But I do read those type of comments, and also comments from residents in West Orton who go to Bolton. So there is a certain degree of, why so much enforcement in Bolton Town Centre. Where other areas, in the outer areas where we have road safety issues on double yellow line parking, is only getting two or three people. It seems to be a little bit upside down, and I would personally like to see a road safety first policy, not your car's just in the on a yellow line for too long or something like that. It's been in a waiting bay too long. We've got enough accidents and incidents across Bolton. I'd like us to get a grip of those people, motorists, who think road safety means nothing to them.
Duane, you want to?
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, Chair. So just to come back on the road safety, Councillor. So we have a road safety strategy, a Vision Zero strategy across Greater Manchester, which is being consulted upon and will be brought into. So there's lots of things within road safety. Parking is one of the issues within road safety, but there's lots of other things that contribute to road safety, and we assess all of the where we enforce on a risk-based approach. So we will go where the risk is greater. So we will enforce upon those areas where the risk is greater. And we do have lots and lots of mobiles. And if there's any particular areas that you've got real concerns about, I'll be able to let you know how frequent we visit, how many PCNs were issued. And if I'm more than happy to do that, and I'm more than happy to do that for anyone, if any of the councillors wanted to question some of the enforcement within their ward, because we will have all the statistics to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hibbert.
Thank you, Councillor Carruthers. Actually, Duane, you just addressed some of what I was about to ask, and it was a follow-up point regarding sort of school keep clears. But I was wondering if, maybe not for this meeting, but if you could forward on the details on the new contract with NSL, if you could forward along some of the KPIs or the service level agreements that they've got, just to sort of drill down, because I think that might let us understand a little bit about, understanding the targets that they're aiming for, and so therefore we can sort of guide and adjust based on those targets and make it relevant to what local people are asking for. I know school keep clears are a huge issue that get raised constantly, so addressing that would be great. So if you could send that information, that'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Sorry,
thank you.
Sorry to butt in again. Could I just ask for clarification? This is an issue the public do raise. Are civil enforcement officers on a requirement for number of tickets issued? The reason why that, in my previous life employment, one train operating company, not mine, did ask its enforcement officers you have to do X number. I think we just need a bit of clarity about that, if it's possible.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So I can confirm that absolutely there's no performance targets, there's no income targets. Their role is to enforce upon illegal parking. That is it. And to be honest, we would love to get to a situation where we don't have illegal parking. That's their point. The whole point of enforcing upon them, and the police would say the same about speeding. Wouldn't it be great if we didn't have this speeding? Wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to deploy all these officers? And that's the point that we want to get to. We haven't got that illegal activity that we do need to enforce upon.
Yeah, thank you. There is no more questions, so let's move to item 2, which is housing financial monitoring and final autumn report.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll take this item, please. So the report in front of you is the final outturn report for the housing and community safety portfolio. I'm just going to concentrate on the housing portfolio for this exec member. So exec member is asked to note the revenue position, note the revenue budget changes and note the financial position. With respect to the revenue expenditure at the end of the year, there was an overall underspend of 81,000, but the housing portfolio actually overspent by £143,000. But we moved that into reserves because we do have reserves in there, and the reserves are at 7.4 million as at the March 2024. If you take through table 1, you'll see the budget adjustments in there, and then there was no strategic redirections for the housing portfolio for last financial year. Table 2 shows you the over and underspends with the variance analysis, and you then see the capital and reserves. And I'm quite happy, Chair, to take any other questions or comments about this report.
Thank you. Any question? Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you very much. Could I just ask, in terms of, it's a good report and it's a finance report, and it is good. It's then the underlying bits what make this report up. And Lisa's, well, you've been doing it a long while, you know what you're doing. It's always good. I've sat in many a meeting with you. In particular, around housing services, and it mentions the demand we've got, and it may be expanding this question maybe a little bit beyond finances. I think members understand the casework at the office as well. You know, the sheer pressure there is now there for a house, a bungalow, a flat, etc. Whether at some stage, whether it goes to scrutiny or what, we have a more in-depth understanding for members across the board about what the real housing pressures are. This is the council side of it. We've also got all our our housing association providers and Bolton at Home, who I have some beefs about. That's another matter as this. But trying to get that wider picture of where we are. And I think I may have missed it. I don't see that pool of information which we as members can see, and also the general public can see about what the council is thinking about, talking about, and doing about housing related issues, because it is almost an hidden problem. You know, it's the iceberg, what you can't see. It's out there, but a lot of people don't see it until they need housing requirements, whether they need a flat, a bungalow. You know, it's one of my biggest chunks of casework, that demand issue. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Rachel, do you want to come on this?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. We will be providing the Exec Cabinet member as we move forward at the end of Q1 some performance information, which will give you that breadth of an insight into the demand. So that will start coming through here. We've also recently signed off a housing plan from our housing needs services. So we will be suggesting to Scrutiny Committee in the work planning for the year that we bring some information through to scrutiny for members to consider in relation to the priorities for the housing needs services, the demand on services, and some of the proposals that we're looking at as to what is in our gift locally to try and alleviate some of those pressures, although many of the issues are national issues that are beyond our control.
Thanks very much for that. Good news.
Thank you. If no more questions, then a report is noted. And
thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. We can move to the next item, which is Director of Place Strategic Budget Report, which is enclosed.
Thank you, Chair.
Janet. Yeah, Janet. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the Strategic Budget Report for 24-25 for the Directorate of Place. This report is the final stage of the corporate business planning process. Section 6 contains fees and charges that are outside the 2% that was approved as part of the underlying assumptions within the budget set by Council in February of this year. The Executive Cabinet member is asked to note the report and to approve the recommendations that are relevant to this portfolio in Section 8. Can I just point one thing out though to members? Within the report, in the recommendations at the bottom of the report, it does say that the capital programme is 54.4 million. However, it is 49.2 million. And that figure, the 49.2 million, is in the rest of the report. So it's just an oversight on that point. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Janet. Any questions? Yes, Councillor Wilkinson.
Can I just ask about the actual big capital, the programme, the 106 million, and it shows underspend. I think about 40 million or something. 60 million was spent. Unless I'm reading it wrong, and finances, I'll be honest, it's not my greatest point in these things because we're dealing with large sums of money. But reading it, how we've ended up with such a significant amount underspent. I'm sure there must be lots of technical reasons for it and physical reasons about getting programs in place. But someone would think, why have, all that money, but why have you not spent it when there's so many problems? If Janet could give us a simple answer for all that financial stuff.
So the figures in the report is the original programme. They're the ones that have just been allocated new to this year. And then we've obviously got the carry forward, which you'll see more of when I show you the outturn report. In the main, there's the highway schemes that we get the money up front and it takes a couple of years to deliver. So some of that is where we get the money, we put it in the capital programme and then we have to phase it. So we move that on. Also within place, we've got the regeneration programme, which is sizable. And again, some schemes that we think we're going to deliver at a certain point just takes longer by the time you've gone through the negotiations and the contract let. So they're the main reason why things go over. At DLT, just to give you some reassurance, we do look through the capital programme and we do test whether we think it's still relevant, because one of the things in my mind is if you've had a scheme that's been going on for say 4 or 5 years and it just keeps underspending by the 4 or 5 years, is that scheme still relevant, bearing in mind the new priorities of the council, because they change over time. So we do have those conversations at DLT when I bring the finances through.
Thank you. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Executive Cabinet Member. I'd like to just raise an issue on a smaller allocation on the report, the Pothole Action Fund. I'm just wondering, obviously it's been said that it's not a priority, potholes for the leader, but obviously that fund specifically prioritises pothole repair. I'm just wondering whether or not there's an estimate that you would know about of how many potholes that might be able to repair, and indeed whether or not it's that fund from previous years as how many potholes that's repaired.
Duane?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So it's hard to put a figure on how many potholes have been repaired because they're all different in nature. But all I would say is that the Pothole Action Fund is an in-year capital allocation. So that allocation is absolutely 100% spent every single year, and it's a contribution. So we have a revenue budget of over £1 million for potholes and defects as well. That just adds to it. So I mean, I'm just wondering, I can't really provide a figure. I can probably pull together some statistics from the last financial year about how many defects were completed, how much the council actually spent on completing those defects, if that would be useful. If you can give me a bit of time to do that. But that's a very, very small allocation within pothole action. We did very, very well last year within the pothole allocation. It was over additional £1 million worth of income. This year we've got less. It's about £485,000 worth of additional income through Network North, plus Pothole Action Fund is all changed with the new funding, gone into a new funding cycle. But yeah, there's not a lot else I can really add, but I can probably have a look at with the team on some of those statistics and report back at maybe through the monitoring report, Sue, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Duane.
Should be. If you can link it to something on there, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Duane. Councillor Hewitt, do you want to come back?
Just very briefly, I know
Okay.
Councillor Wilkinson's indicated. Yeah, no, thank you, Duane. Yeah, if you can pull out statistics from the asset management database, that's fine. I'm happy to sort of see them to myself or on the monitoring report. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Wilkinson?
An issue that people do keep mentioning, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big issue. Let's not fool ourselves. It is a big issue. It's been a big issue for the last 20 years. It's got worse. And anybody who says, and I don't mean this in any disrespect to any office or anything like that, we are not keeping pace. We really aren't. I know officers and teams are running around trying to keep on top. There's a whole load of it. I've no doubt Duane can write as an essay or a thesis on potholes and pothole highway funding. We're on a £92 million backlog, which at one stage was 123 million, if I remember correctly. But somebody changed the rules and said, "Man, you don't have to do that." I think about 4 or 5 years ago, and it went down to 92 million because them figures were national. So by change the rules, why these things don't look as bad? 123 versus 90. Well, skimmed off £30 million off the problem. Times it by a couple hundred councils, a few £1 billion less. A couple of points I would like to ask you. In the previous report, we did have it's a couple of months ago, the pothole funding, which comes via the government. I think, if I remember right, it was 690,000. Dwayne might remember. And in the report was an indication of HS2 pothole funding, which from memory, I think was 432,000 or 435,000 off the top of my head. But we were not guaranteed any more pothole funding money, which was, I remember rightly, about 690 the previous year. So whether anybody can, confirm my age in memory, I don't know. In relation to the potholes, I know Dwayne's answered a lot of my emails, and he must be sick and weary of the issues about potholes, particularly in West Bolton. And I have to say thank you to all highway officers, both at senior management level and in business support, who respond and have to deal with my casework and everybody else's casework and the public's. Just in relation to that was extra resources put into dealing with potholes, which Dwayne mentioned in an email to me. Have we got any figures for the additional costs of tackling that that large number of potholes in terms of the manpower costs and equipment and resource costs going in there? Because somebody's going out doing something, it costs money. And I think the other issue is an anecdotal one from the public, is why are we banging tarmac in? And I'll use that in its crudest form, because, truck comes up, pothole, clean it out a bit, bang some tarmac in, flatten it down, off they go. And public say, well, they do say to me, I've no doubt they say it to a lot of other people, why has it that been done? Why don't you cut it out properly? Particularly those who worked in construction or highways, they say, you should cut it out properly and fill it in properly, and then put a nice little tar seal around the edge of the hole. If Dwayne can give any feedback on that. I know it's a lot of questions, but highways, I walk out this door today at my house and I walk up street, I'll get stopped at least 5 times by somebody mentioning potholes, and that's on a good day. Bad day, I'll times it back, put a 0 on the end,
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Dwayne, you want to comment on this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just in relation to funding, Councillor, and you've mentioned there that there was a £92 million backlog in 2019. It's probably over or getting towards 100 million at the moment. We're currently, and that's out of our highways asset management strategy, that figure you're quoting, which hasn't been updated for 5 years. So we're going through the process of updating that as we speak. So we'll be able to report what the present backlog is. But look, the reality is, we are managing a depreciating asset. We're trying to manage a depreciating asset as safely as possible. So just to take your questions a little bit out of order, the process of filling, we will have emergency potholes, which we have to fill within 2 hours, emergency defects, and we assess all of these on risk. Those are the ones where we'll come along, we'll put the tarmac in, and they'll drive along, they'll do more and more emergencies. Unfortunately, the figures for those, particularly since December, have absolutely gone through the roof. We're getting so many, and it's not just us as a council. This is a national issue. It's the same. All councils are reporting exactly the same challenges. It wasn't a particularly cold winter, but it's a very wet winter, and Councillor Hewitt will also know that there's lots and lots of defects on the motorway network at the moment, which you've never seen before, and they're getting more and more of an issue. And I talk to National Highways colleagues about what do we do in local councils around that, because they don't deal with defects, they deal with major resurfacing. Defects is something new to them on the motorway network that they're having to charge with. So it's happening everywhere. So the funding, you quoted at, I think, £690,000. We ended up with 2 drops of money last year. So we did get a pothole action fund, and then we got some additional funding through the cancellation of HS2 as well. So it's just around or just short of £1 million worth of additional funding, which was all spent on. So what we do, going back to the process, where we have to do emergency defects, we will, but we also pull together a programme of preventive works. We've got reactive work and then preventative work. The preventative work is patching. Now, we have 3 forms of patching. So we have the traditional patching, which is planing out an inlay, and then we have 2 very innovative organisations that we work with around different materials, which is like a screed that we'll put down, and then a recycled material that we use from recycled tyres and all sorts of different things, which we'll use. And those have been really, really good and really cost effective and a very sustainable way as well of getting the maximum, repairing the roads, making sure they're safe, but also making sure that we're getting value for money and we are heading towards our net zero carbon targets as well. The cost of resources, and I know we've had a few conversations on email about additional resource. We've got additional gangs in at the moment. I can't put a cost to those, unfortunately, at the moment. But they will be reported in these future finance reports. You'll be able to see the additional costs that we've put through revenue. And it is, at the moment, we're running an additional 2 teams to just around those emergency defects. And we want to get to a point where at the moment, we don't want to have that reactive maintenance. We want it to be more preventative. That's what we're trying to get to at the moment. We're getting on top of the reactive stuff. So we're repairing all of those emergency defects within time frames of either 2 hours, a day, a week, 2 weeks, or 28 days. And then we've got the larger stuff, which I know, which is the frustration for a lot of our residents, where you've got these roads which are stripping, not necessarily intervention, very unsightly, quite difficult to drive on, not the best of surface to drive on, but they're not at intervention. And if those are the roads that we want to be concentrating on our patching and using some of these more innovative products that we've got at the moment. So hopefully that answers your question as best I can.
Yes, good information as usual, Dwayne. I think it's, getting information out to members so everybody's aware, but also the public can see some of the problems that the matter who's running the council, who's the exec member. I know the exec member probably getting a load of stick about issues, but people can understand. Because one of the problems we've got in local government is that people don't understand the fact this council had a 50% cut in budget terms.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Exec Cabinet Member. Yeah, I would thank Dwayne for his answer on there, and yeah, I'll have to declare an interest in terms of working for 20 years in emergency asset repair on major roads. So I think you can see a great deal of seasonal variability in sort of like the actual physical response. It can vary from year to year based on the particular weather that we might be having and what not from year to year. So whilst there might be sort of like variance and fluctuations from year to year, as you say, if you're managing on a risk-based approach, then that's the best you can do. So thanks for that answer, Dwayne.
Thank you. If there's no more question, then report is noted and approved.
Thank you.
And let's move to item 4, which is Director of Place Finance Report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take that one. So this is the final outturn report for the Directorate of Place. At the end of the financial year, the whole directorate overspent by £803,000. The overspend for this portfolio was the underspend for this portfolio was £43,000. There are no general reserves held by the directorate. Key financial findings can be found on page 3, and service-specific findings can be found in Appendix A. The Executive Cabinet Member is asked to note the report and to approve the recommendations that are suitable for this portfolio in Section 11. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Thank you. No. If there's no question, then the report is noted and approved as recommended.
Thank you.
Thank
That's the
you.
end of the meeting then.
That's end of the meeting. Thank you everyone for attending. And
Thank
see
you.
Thank
See you
you.
soon. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Chair.
Thank you. Take
Bye-bye,
care.
Councillor.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.